Welcome back, Mr. Adewale. Thank you very much for coming back on the show today. And we'll just take off from where we stopped last week. We started talking about how to turn pain and rejection into an instrument for our life's purpose. And we said we wanted to try to, talk about that a little bit more because we realized that many of us, many people have some form of pain, some form of rejection in their lives in our past. I mean, it could be rejection from family members, rejection from church members, it could be rejection from parents, rejection from our children, even rejection
Mm.
from a workplace. You got fired. So there is some form of pain, some form of rejection in most people's life. Sometimes we find it difficult to turn it around into an instrument of our lives purpose, to use it as a propellant into our future. The question is, how do we, because you are someone who did that, you turned,
Mm.
the pain, the rejection of your life into a propellant into your future. How do we do that? What are some things that you can tell us about how we can really, do that and not get bogged down by pain and rejection?
Thank you very much for that important question. And I think that majority of us actually we find ourselves in this situation, but sometimes not many people are able to learn one or two things. In the long run, people miss that opportunity to uh, discover the essence of their pain and what God wants to do in their lives. Uh, Given that situation they found themselves. I, over the years, have met few people who actually maybe gave birth to children that have this one form of disability or the other. For instance, I met somebody who have a daughter that have Down syndrome. And
Mm,
then, so like, if you have ever met with someone with like, oftentimes even people hide their children that have disability, they don't hide them. They don't allow anybody to see them. They're like, oh, because we're not proud. Nobody is proud of their challenge. Nobody is proud. I say, oh, this is what I have. This is my son. This is my daughter. Like, no, 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 because we want to look good in front of everybody. And purpose is not about looking good.
mm,
Purpose, no, no, no. Purpose is never about looking good. It's about what God wants to do in your life. So purpose is not like okay, your appearance.
mm,
What purpose is about is the appearance of God's plan in your life, and you what you do with it. So I've seen people who have children with one form of disability or the other, and eventually they founded organizations that now help to support other children,
mm,
other parents, other families that have children that have such challenges. For instance, maybe a child that have a Down syndrome now, like for instance, the person who founded Down Syndrome Foundation in Nigeria has a daughter that have Down syndrome. And do you know how many children living with Down syndrome in Nigeria have benefited from what she has been able to, bring forth? She could have like, oh God, she could actually whine, like complain, like God, why did you give me this child? Or probably just lock the child behind the door. But today she is giving those children voices. She's giving the parents of children who have disability opportunity to believe in the
mm,
ability of their children, even though they have what they call disability. So providing empowerment. So it's very key that we do not waste moments of pain. We do not waste moments of rejections. We do not waste moments of our life challenge because in those seasons or in those periods, God is glorified. God is magnified. Very, very important. I'll give you another classic example. For someone like myself, okay, like when I was employed, I mean, no, Lord. The amount I was given as a salary, I felt like they were cheating me. Like they
mm,
didn't give me what was due to me. I was going to resign, but God said, no, don't resign. Keep
mm,
doing what you're doing. So I kept doing what I was doing. I kept walking. I kept walking. Do you know in the long run, God started opening my eyes to other things I can do to be able to increase my earning, my income. And then
mm,
that way I was able, but beyond the income, what mattered was my attitude. The question is when you are in pain, what is your attitude? Because through your pain, you can grow. Through your pain, you can actually lose that moment of growing. Your attitude is a difference maker. So through my pain, I grew. I grew from somebody who was earning a particular amount to somebody who was earning more than some people who actually were giving leverage over me. But beyond that, God now opened door for me to meet even with the president of Nigeria then. Through my attitude, I wasn't in any position of in any leadership position. Also, I was just an ordinary teacher. But what mattered most was my attitude.
You are not even you are not even the head of the teachers in the school.
No, just like ordinary teacher, an ordinary teacher.
Wow.
And that is why what make extraordinary people extraordinary is the attitude. When you combine a positive attitude to what is ordinary, that becomes extraordinary because your attitude is a game changer. You become optimistic, you become enthusiastic, you become passionate. All of those attitudes will definitely shoot you up and make you a spectacle. Somebody that people will start admiring. Like, you were nobody, but today you are someone that people can look up to. So it's very key that we give perspective to our pains. That's the first thing that we need to look at. How do you define your pain? How do you define your losses?
What's the story you're telling yourself? What's the story you're telling yourself?
Yes. What are you telling yourself? How do you define your pain? How do you define you say, I was born into a poor family. Yeah, you're born into a poor family. That was something that you don't have control over. You have a control over remain in poverty as you grow up. You have a choice. Being born into a poverty is not a choice. Remaining in poverty is a choice. You have a choice to make. Right. So it's the pain of living in poverty or pain of living a poverty-stricken life is different. So you can decide and say, I want to rewrite my story. I want to rewrite the story of my family. My family have actually failed in several areas, but today I stand up to challenge the failures in my father's house, to challenge failures in my generation, to rewrite my story. You can. So trying to give, and in so doing, you become a light in your home, you become a light in your community, you become a light in your nation, you become a light in your continent. Wow. Giving perspective to your pain is very key. What story are you telling yourself? Are you telling yourself it's over? Even when you have heartbreaks, when you have heartbreaks, do you think there might be things that maybe God is trying to prevent you from? So what have you learned from that? Right, and probably you need to evaluate your own personal attitude and character. You might have character flaws that is not helping you. That is actually, that is bringing barriers between you and where you want to get to. So sometimes you need to sit down and evaluate yourself. Like, what am I doing wrong?